Alright, what's up, guys? So, Wrestlemania has uploaded a video titled 10 Rare Times WWE Women Were Busted Open for Real. Yeah, definitely, and it's funny how I'm watching this video, and in a few hours AEW is going to come on, but no, I think the one thing that we should all talk on is Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker and their wrestling match, because, dang, that match was brutal. That probably, I'm trying to think, that was like probably the first ever like brutal. I've been watching wrestling for so many years, and I've like watched like brutal matches, but when it's like already been recorded and posted and it's just clips and stuff. But that's like probably my first time like, live, like actually like watching it while it's live. Like that'll probably be my first ever like sitting down watching a brutal match. So yeah, shout out to Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. I'm trying to think like I've seen like brutal matches before, like watching it either on YouTube or somewhere. But yeah, other than that, I was just like, but live though, like sitting down for the first time ever and things like not when it's already been like something from like the 80s or the 90s, but like modern, new, but. Anyways, now let's go ahead and get into this video. Guys, make sure if you haven't, go subscribe to Wrestlemania for more videos like this. And then that being said, let's get into this video. Between full screens and all that. Alright.
Now, even though we saw a lot of blood during the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era, there was always one exception to wrestlers bleeding, and that exception would be women's matches. For some reason, blood never seemed to be permitted in women's matches, meaning that bleeding or blood capsules was completely out the question. So this meant that when a WWE woman was busted open during a match, it was completely by accident and done the hard way. The same can be said for the modern era, an era in which blading of blood is virtually obsolete, whether it be male or female wrestlers. But let's look at some of the rarest moments of a WWE female wrestler who was busted open in the ring. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive
She could win anywhere. She made history. Speaking of, like, off topic from this video, but I think that's pretty dope to talk on that real quick. Kane being inducted in the Hall of Fame. It's crazy, like, watching wrestling for the first time, like, so many years ago and seeing it. It's like Kane was a weekly wrestler, like, trying to get the WWE Championship. And then it's like, going from that to, like, now seeing him being inducted in the Hall of Fame. It's wild, man. It's so wild.
Counter for counter, these two athletes have an answer for everything.
Number 10, Charlotte Flair at Wrestlemania 34. Going into Wrestlemania 34 and the match between Charlotte Flair and Asuka, fans expected it to be physical.
Charlotte going for it all! Thinking about the moonsault!
Oh
my gosh! Look at Asuka! Asuka got a hold of her! Asuka's got the triangle locked in!
However, no fans actually expected one of the women to get busted open, but that's exactly what happened.
I remember that match.
Halfway through the match, it appeared as if Charlotte had a nasty gash on her arm. Now, it's worth noting it's standard practice that the WWE stop a match if there is a serious cut on a wrestler's face. However, this doesn't appear to be the case if the cut is somewhere else on the body. By the time the match had finished, it was everywhere and a great visual. Number 9, Ruby Riott and NXT Live. Speaking of wrestlers being busted open in matches with Asuka, Charlotte Flair wasn't the only exception to this, as in 2017, Ruby Riott was busted open by Asuka in a match at an NXT Live event. Now, though the cameras weren't rolling, fans in attendance managed to pick up what happened to be Riott suffering a nasty gash on her head in the match, which in turn created a crimson mask on her face. NXT officials would stop the match immediately so Riott could be safely treated. Number 8, Dana Brooke, WWE Main Event 2019.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Now, the next incident of a female superstar being busted open is often forgot about by most fans, mainly because it occurred on an episode of Main Event rather than an episode of Raw, SmackDown, or even a pay-per-view.
They was for a little bit, but I think she needs to have like a champ, more so having like a championship run, like if anything.
Place in a match between Dana Brooke and Sarah Logan in 2019, and during the match, Brooke's head managed to bounce off the ring post.
Oh my God!
This caused a very serious injury, so much so that the match had to be
like, hey, yo, this
stopped
real.
so Brooke could be treated by the WWE medical team. Number 7, Sasha Banks, Roadblock 2016.
Last night, I literally gave my blood, sweat, and tears.
The main event of Roadblock 2016 featured Sasha Banks defending the Raw Women's title against Charlotte Flair in an Iron Man match. Towards the end of the match, fans noted that Sasha had quite a substantial amount of blood coming out of her mouth. It appeared as if she had been accidentally kicked in the mouth in the closing moments, and although the cut looked bad, it added to the story. Number 6, Chaparita Asari, Raw in 1995.
Welcome to the Manatee Civic Center! And welcome to Monday Night Raw!
During this episode of Raw in 1995, in a match between Chaparita Asari and Aja Kong, Kong managed to leave Asari in a bloody mess, which left Raw announcer Vince McMahon unable to explain to the audience why one of the women in the match was covered in blood. Now this is the new generation era, where hardly anybody was busted open. The incident seemed to occur from a back fist from Kong towards Asari, and this led to Asari's nose exploding and her being busted open. Asari would have a broken nose following the match, and it appeared as if the WWE audience and Vince himself weren't ready for this type of women's wrestling to be introduced into a WWE product. Number 5, Shayna Basler, NXT Live 2018. During this NXT Live event, which featured Shayna Basler competing in a 6-women tag match, the match had to be stopped for a brief period after she suffered a cut on the head. Thanks to a fan in attendance who shared the incident on social media, the cut she suffered was rather severe and her face was virtually covered.
That'd be so scary. Like, you just, man, I tapped out. I said, forget this match, bro. Like, you see some stuff like that. If I've been in the crowd and seen that, imagine her staring directly at you. And it's like, you got like all those like flashing lights that's just adding more fuel to the fight. Oh, no, I left. I say, forget this. I've been, Shayna, like, I'm just seeing this. I'm like, bro, that's like a nightmare image right there, man. That's scary.
Shayna, however, appeared quite proud of the incident, and she took to Instagram to share an image of her with the crimson mask with the caption, Warrior Queen. Number 4, Beth Phoenix, Royal Rumble 2020.
Dang, that was just last year. She got busted up. I didn't see the Royal Rumble last year, but dang, she got busted up.
Beth Phoenix's injury at the 2020 Rumble was one of the most brutal injuries that had ever taken place in the match itself. For some context, Beth was the MVP of the Women's Rumble that year. She spent almost 30 minutes in the match and seemed to be putting in a fantastic performance. However, during the match, Beth would knock her head against the ring post, which resulted in her having a cut, and her blonde hair would be stained red. Fans and fellow wrestlers praised Beth's toughness, including Hall of Famer and husband Edge, as he would comment on the injury following the match via social media and simply tweet out, "My wife's a badass." Number 3, Ronda Rousey, Survivor Series 2018. Ronda Rousey took an awful lot of punishment in her match against Charlotte Flair at 2018 Survivor Series pay-per-view. After Charlotte was DQ'd for hitting Ronda with a kendo stick, Charlotte continued the assault.
I think I remember this
chair
match.
to crush the throat of Rowdy Ronda. Ronda was badly cut in her mouth during the match, and by the time the match had finished, it was everywhere. This match and the negative crowd reaction to Ronda would ultimately lead to a heel turn.
Damn your fantasies! Damn the man! Screw the woo! And no more Mrs. Nice!
And her main event showdown against Becky Lynch and Charlotte at Wrestlemania 35.
For pound with Rousey! Oh,
Rousey just
I think another reason why like people probably didn't like Ronda Rousey's run in WWE is because she was more so like wrestling. She was like in it as a wrestler. She wasn't in it like doing no Brock Lesnar stuff. And I think that's why a lot of people was like, you know, plus it was like, you know, she's new to this. Like she's used to doing like some like non-scripted, you know, for real type stuff rather than WWE. It's like this stuff is like, you know, they got giving you a script and telling you, okay, this is how you guys say it. So she's trying to add like her, you know, her attitude. My thing is like, I feel like when it's not scripted and you're used to that, then it's like you're going to be more comfortable with that. But then you're scripted, then you're doing this like live in front of a crowd on TV where it's like thousands of people is there like watching you for real. And you got millions of people watching you at home. That stuff's probably getting to her mentally. And that's why she probably wasn't as good as she was supposed to be on the mic. But my thing is like, look, She got potential. She got talent. Like, I know she'll, eventually at some point in time, she'll get it down, kill it. That's why it's like, I think, and then it's just, people is like wrestling or WWE events and all them guys. It's just like, hey, Ronda Rousey being a part of WWE, we don't care what she does out there. She's a part of us. That's going to be making some money and stuff. So that's probably why it wasn't too much going into it. But, they probably should have practiced like a little bit more. But, I think that was, like, probably because she was going into it like a wrestler. She was, like, adding, like, some, like, MMA type stuff to it. But, yeah, it's one of those things, it's like, if they was, then it's like people have been just calling her, oh, yeah, she's, like, the female version of, or the women version of, I try to, like, correct myself when saying female because I know it's, like, derogatory and offensive to women out there. So, but yeah, there's like people are gonna be referring to her as like the women version of Brock Lesnar and stuff. So she probably didn't want that and wanted to be her own person, and that's why she had the run she did. But who knows?
Lita, Survivor Series 2000. Lita's efforts and toughness at the 2000 Survivor
It's like
Series.
that's the thing with Lita. It's like she's one of those. It's like her, Shayna Baszler, bro. What is her name? Oh my god, Shayna, freaking. I know. I don't even care. You know what? Tomato, bro. But I feel like it's like wrestlers like them, like Lita. Who else? Ronda Rousey. It's like when they get busted open, it's like okay. But it's like when somebody else, like Dana Brooke, like her getting busted open, you're like, oh, like you're expecting it from Lita and everybody else, but it's like Dana Brooke or freaking I don't know. Maybe possibly Charlotte Flair, but yeah, it's when they get busted up, it's like, oh wait a minute, hold on now, y'all ain't supposed to get busted up. But it's like Lita, it's like something about them, like their attitude or something. That it's like okay, they gonna get busted up, but
solidified her as a fan favorite and one of the most legendary women wrestlers of all time.
Oh,
In
yeah.
the women's title match with Ivory, Ivory's heel managed to connect with Lita's face, which sliced it open. The match wouldn't be stopped and Lita would continue wrestling despite being covered. 5 minutes later and the match would be over and Lita was able to get the medical treatment she needed. The fans in attendance appreciated the efforts of Lita continuing the match. She received a standing ovation from them, as well as receiving praise from Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross on commentary. And number 1, Becky Lynch, Raw in 2018.
yeah.
And I get a punch in the face from Nia Jax that changed my career forever.
Nia Jax has unfortunately attained a reputation for being unsafe and a reckless worker in the women's division. The segment took place towards the build towards Survivor Series 2018 when the SmackDown roster invaded Raw and the two women's rosters brawled. During that brawl, Nia proceeded to legitimately punch Becky right in the face, where she suffered a broken nose.
As soon as
Did they say she got like a concussion
the place
too?
goes dark, I walk out and I have no idea where I am.
Due to the injury, Becky would miss the Survivor Series pay-per-view, a pay-per-view where she was initially booked to wrestle Ronda Rousey. However, although the broken nose was indeed serious, it did take Becky's popularity to the next level, and the image of Becky standing amongst the crowd with blood on her face became somewhat of an iconic image that solidified her success and notoriety. But there you have it, folks. 10 female wrestlers
I seen that.
who
I
were
was just like,
accidentally
oh
busted
dang,
open.
she
Be
got
sure to leave
busted.
your comments down
Like,
below. Subscribe if you
that
haven't
was
already.
crazy.
See you next time with some more wrestling content.
Yeah, man. It's like when it's like when the wrestler and they get busted up, because I think like the first time I seen it was like where it was like really interesting to me was the John Cena JBL I Quit match. Like to me, I was like that's like one of my favorite matches, and I know like when Batista and Triple H at WrestleMania 21, that's another one of my like favorite like classic matches. But then it's like when women start getting busted up, I was all like, hey, yo, what is this? Like, the women ain't supposed to get busted up? Like, no. And then when you see, then, like, the more you see it, then you're like, I could work with this. Like, I'm starting to like this. Now it's, like, making it, like, more of a wrestling environment. I say, like, yeah, definitely when women's wrestling getting, like, taken a little bit more serious, then, yeah, that's when it was like, look, we're gonna be having these like these extreme rule matches, like or like hardcore, whatever they want to call them, where it's like they're gonna be getting hit with chairs, kendo sticks, slammed through tables. I mean, they already were kind of doing that stuff already, but they was like, we just gonna go a little bit more further. They gonna get busted open. They gonna be jumping off of stuff. Like that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for like, have they ever had like a wrestler that was like she did some extreme stuff like Jeff Hardy, she jumping off the top of we need a wrestler like that. Like that's what I would like to see. But anyways, but this was a pretty good video. Shout out to Wrestlemania. If you guys haven't, make sure you go subscribe to him for more videos like this. Like, subscribe to me too, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.